What's your perspective on Google's new smart bidding expiration feature? Would you recommend using it? No. I set up extremely specific use cases for every step of the funnel. Like I need something to give me the new user. I need that over that frequency. I need the next thing to go and do this. I need the next thing to go and do that. And then I use all only custom imports. And then I actually don't even care if Google shows me a conversion or not. So my opinion, no. I do believe that smart bidding expiration feature, I understand what it's trying to do. In my opinion, it's just more control into Google. And I'm the guy that's trying to go the opposite direction. So I have tested things like iMax too, which is okay, super broad, but I understand it, but they spend a lot more money than I wanted them to, which is again why you would give the reins to Google. So my opinion is no, you should be paying a specific set amount that you believe in that part of the funnel to be appropriate for that user. Let's just dive into some questions. Okay. So I can't pull it up on the screen. That's Ralph's control. I don't have that sort of access, but I'm going to start off with El Mundo de Lolo. Awesome name. For Meta eCom, I have categories with different profit margins. Should I separate campaigns based on similar PM? I use profit metrics to send data to Meta. I don't bid for profit, but I can measure it. So my opinion is Meta is really only being driven around by that conversion event. If all of them are using the standard purchase event action, which is a $1,000 purchase is a purchase and a $1 purchase is a purchase, there really isn't any sort of differentiation between Meta's pixel by saying this is the person that we want, this is the person that we do not want. Thank you. I appreciate it, sir. So what we found is that when we have products that have different AOV or even also different products, it is having to retrain that algorithm. What I mean by that is something that looks like this. And this is actually really important to understand because people without this sort of visual clarity may not see that this is actually what is happening. So I'm going to go into my account here and let me just share with you the last like a few days worth of data. This company was built on a very specific product called Critical Immune Defense. It's one of our best-selling items. It's a really high-quality product, and we sell a massive shit ton of it. So out of $60,000, $50,000 goes to the Critical Immune Defense. So that becomes an issue when we're like, hey, we want to get new joint customers for our joint product. It says, cool, I'll give you your 10 joint products, but I'm also going to sell, immune products. So we're retraining it out to get out of all of these immune product events. And it's working well. And that's the last 3 days. But if we go to like the last 30 days out of 75, new joint customers, I also have 28 new customers for immune. So you see it was like a 75-25 split. Now let's just say last 3 days after this has been training for a little while, now we have a 10 and 1. Excellent. So we went from originally it was like 50-50, then it went 60-40, 70-30. Now it's 90%. So if I want a different AOV, a different product or a different customer or a different anything, I have to retrain the pixel. Hey, remember how much conversions we used to get on immune? Yes. Forget everything that you ever knew. Now you have to go over there. Well, you can't do that with Meta unless you tell it that it is now optimizing for something else. The targeting is your creative. Yes, you can throw in ads that are different. The problem is Meta's pixel is retrained on an audience for so often, it takes your other product, shows it to those people. Those people see that ad and say, wow, I remember that company. I wanted to buy the other thing. They click on that ad and they go and they buy. And then that is confirmation bias to Meta that, hey, that product must be selling because people that actually didn't want that product use that ad to go buy the other product. So this is, again, still the kind of same theme of retraining the pixels and retraining the tags for specific events such as AOV or profitability. You need to tell it you actually sold the wrong thing because if we take face value of I did sell that item, it may not have actually been true. And that's why we have this whole series. Hopefully that works. All right. Hey team, for 100K monthly investment in clothing, eCom 70, Meta 30 Google, should we consider TikTok or Pinterest? Any proven performance incrementality? Huge fan from Argentina. Well, thank you very much for watching. I would say, in my opinion, TikTok would be better depending upon, it's not like, grandma's bathrobes. Probably not going to be really good for TikTok. I mean, it might be, but Facebook would still be winner just because of age demographic. If you're looking at a clothing company, I'm assuming you're probably 30s and under. If you're more 25 to 35 to 45, yes, you can still do TikTok. Just don't dump a whole bunch of money into there. Pinterest has been pretty good, but it's very, very difficult to attribute. So unless you're measuring things like NCAC, MER, and new customer growth and new user growth, be weary of Pinterest because Pinterest is a little bit of a hit or miss network. So I would say yes to TikTok. Now, my opinion, though, is on TikTok, you want to be optimizing for view content. That means that they actually clicked and looked at the product. In my opinion, on TikTok, if you click on an ad, that's as good as you buying it, in my opinion, from intent. Not many people click on TikTok ads and then go and buy it. They find out about it and then they Google it later and then they come in through Google or buy it on Amazon. So when you're looking at TikTok, I would optimize towards the actions of, oh, that's cool, because, oh, that's cool is just as high intent as, oh, that's cool, I'm going to buy it now. They might still buy within 24 hours, optimize towards that. If it works well, you should see the incremental lift on new customers. Media efficiency ratio should be stable, and NCAC should be stable with every dollar that you put into TikTok. All right, next. What's your perspective on Google's new smart bidding expiration feature? Would you recommend using it? No. I set up extremely specific use cases for every step of the funnel. Like, I need something to give me the new user. I need that over that frequency. I need the next thing to go and do this. I need the next thing to go and do that. And then I use all only custom imports. And then I actually don't even care if Google shows me a conversion or not. So my opinion, no. I do believe that smart bidding exploration feature, I understand what it's trying to do. In my opinion, it's just more control into Google. And I'm the guy that's trying to go the opposite direction. So I have tested things like PMAX too, which is okay, super broad, but I understand it, but they spend a lot more money than I wanted them to, which is again why you would give the reins to Google. So my opinion is no, you should be paying a specific set amount that you believe in that part of the funnel to be appropriate for that user. How do you best evaluate NCAC when profit margins vary across different products impacting net profit? Sure. So that's actually going back to the retraining of the algorithm that we were kind of talking about before. So I had this client who is that took a small hiatus and tested a different company for a while, and it will be coming back. But there is a setup and structure that we used between April, May up until June 25th, which we were part of the company at the time. And you can see that I actually have very specific very specific conversion events. So as an example, a throne is a $4,000 or $5,000 product. So a $981 is okay. A purchase of this is about a $500 product. So a $247 is okay. So what's nice about this is I know that I have a profit margin on, if you look at a Vista hammock is about $425 on sale, but usually $500. Now a hammock throne, you can see right here, this is the throne, that's a $4,000 product. So am I good at getting a 2X on both my thrones and my hammock? Absolutely. Would I blend them together? Absolutely not. That's what the other agency did, and tanked their revenue quite a bit. So it's important to train the algorithm on what you're expecting, because if it's not something that you can track or see that inside the platform, you're left up to crossing your fingers saying, man, I hope it's true. And this whole channel is dedicated to that not being true. So hopefully that helps here. So I tried to find out more information about Blotout, which you use to track new versus returning customers, but couldn't find a website. How does it work? What does it cost? And when do you recommend using it? So yes, Blotout, the Tier 11 data suite, Audience OS, there's many different people out there. In my opinion, I'm only going to publicly advocate for the Tier 11 data suite, only because that's kind of where this was originally built on. And so that is something that I would say, if you're looking for this, in my opinion, the Tier 11 data suite is powered by a few different combinations of people that we like, know, and trust, maybe including Blotout. I don't want to give away like trade secrets, but there's a lot of data that has been compiled into the Tier 11 data suite that is a best of all worlds. So that is what I would advocate for. All right. eSupernova. I think, did we skip one? Do we have the eSupernova? Oh, yeah, there we go. Perfect. Appreciate it. Hey guys, does launching a Google Ads campaign with a high initial budget lead to faster scalability and greater long-term stability? So I have a stair-step approach that is appropriate for a time lag for every one of the accounts. Let me give you an example. If you have a time lag of 30 days to sell a $5,000 piece of furniture, or 2 days to sell a new Apple Watch band for let's say $90 as an example, those will have two different starting and scaling budgets. A high budget on a long sales cycle I prefer. Reason why is long sales cycles take time. They're long sales cycles. Makes sense. Now, if you increase and decrease your budgets on a long sales cycle, what you're doing is spending a lot of money to take a big group of people and start to train them and start to introduce yourself. So imagine this in a sense where you are actually talking to a group of people at a presentation, okay? And the amount of money that you put into that presentation, the bigger the audience grows. And your presentation is 10 hours long. It's a long sales cycle. What you have to look at is keeping the ad spend high keeps the audience high while you're giving your presentation. If you start the presentation with 100 people in the room and you're like, "Hi, I'm John. Why hasn't everyone bought yet?" typically what happens is I'm spending a lot of money. Where's all my sales? Well, you just started your presentation. Hold tight, keep going. So if you start to remove 70 people and bring 50 people back in, and then remove 20 people, then bring 1,000 people back in, and be like, oh, it's too expensive. And then what you're doing is you're taking your audience and you're only teaching like 5 at once. The other 100 are just flowing in and out, in and out, in and out. And it's a long sales cycle. So the people that made it past, your time to the hour 10, there might be 7 people out of the 1,000 that you eventually brought in and out. That's how you have to think about your ad spend. Is if I have a long sales cycle and a high ad spend, it means I'm training a big group of audience for a long time. That's expensive. Yes. But you're selling probably $5,000 items. That's such as life. That's the reason why it takes $1,000 to sell a throne, because it's a $5,000 hammock. People are not really impulse buying $5,000 hammocks very often. It takes time, more expensive, higher CPA, but higher AOV. That's why those two average out. So on a short sales cycle, you could be like, okay, if I spend $100, did I make a sale in 2 days? Yes. 200, did I double it? Yes. 300, did I double it? Yes. 400, did I double it? Yes. You can see in very short succession, your entire sales pipeline is completed in 2 days. You can afford to increase your ad spend, but you cannot treat a long sales cycle the same way, because no one wants to leave and join the presentation sporadically due to the emotions of the person who is presenting. And that's what bad campaigns, not advertisers, bad campaigns end up doing, is they have high amount of fluctuation in spend, and now there's no consistency. And then you got to restart from the beginning and do it the right way anyway. So that's my thought process on how to scale budgets based on sales cycle. All right. Is there a way to stop search partners from PMAX? Seems like we are getting a ton of spam. So search partners, I wouldn't always put my eggs in that basket. There is no publicly available data on where spam is coming from inside of Performance Max. I just have to be very, very clear about that. There is equal amount of spam in the YouTube area of Performance Max from bad YouTube channels that are hiring clickbots and farms to click on all their ads so they have their earnings per view go up. That is a portion that you also cannot identify inside of Performance Max. So while Performance Max may say that there is a lot of search partners, that also could be engaged view conversion that maybe never even had a click, that maybe never even gave you the spam, but has a high amount of conversion. So there's reasons why or why not an area inside of Performance Max works. But again, the only thing that we've been able to produce as a retrain that algorithm is only importing the quality, either on a sale or a lead. So Performance Max, in my opinion, is horrible for lead generation because it goes to where intent happens, and intent is based on in-click, and clickbots and farms usually overtake it because 100%, or actually sometimes 1,000% click-through rate, one video view, 1 click, 10 form submissions, or one video view, 10, one video impression, 10 views. Like this, a lot of times just refreshed. So PMAX is very susceptible to spam, so you have to treat it as such. If it starts to believe that the actions it's taking are true and they're based off of spam or bots, it doesn't spiral. It just laser focuses and runs that direction. And then you scale it up because the ROAS looks good, the CPA looks good, but then you find out, we produce a whole bunch of junk. So again, I've been every which way in shape and form trying to rebuild Performance Max, but still turning it into a engine that is only focusing on what I wanted to focus on has been way better than trying to control the black box. So like, wait, no, don't go over there, come back. Oh, don't go over there. No, that's a bot. That's a bad YouTube channel. Come back. Skipping all that crap, because I've done that for years, is a lot easier just by saying you can go wherever you want, but unless that number goes up, you fail. And it's easier just by steering it from behind. You said that algorithm is training itself wrong with view conversions. Why do you bid for views? Wouldn't it inflate? So I wouldn't say that it's necessarily training itself wrong on view conversions. It can, if it is counting something that is not necessarily real. So we import as, again, first click new customer, not all new customers imported to every channel. That is where it goes bad. So what ends up happening with Meta is it's not necessarily retraining it on wrong clicks. What it is seeing is that if I can show an ad to a person ready to go, I get a point. So if you tell a computer, show an ad to the person who is about to purchase that day, and you get more money, it's going to do what? Not try to go and hunt down cold traffic and take a long time to get them to convert. It's a conversion beast. So it is going to hunt them down. Now, what the first click CAPI import does is says you showed an ad to 10 people who are ready to go today in the standard purchase event, but you counted it as 0. So it didn't earn any money. It didn't get its cookie. It failed. But if it starts to change its targeting and take different actions, and it starts to see the conversion number go up, well, what is the conversion number that's going up? first click new customers. So it can train itself wrong. And that happens actually very, very, very frequently. So let me give you just a 2-second example so I can show your screen here. And this is what I mean when you take actuality in consideration, when you take real physics, which is what I love saying is it's actually, I can't say it any other way. For example, this is what we would have to believe is true. So if we look at the attribution model on one day engaged view, I don't believe anybody here would say that this is a factual statement. So it takes one day, you got 116 purchases. Okay. Day 7, that 116 goes up to 359. Now day 28, that 359 goes up to 423. So we see it takes almost a month for an entire sales cycle to kick in. Yeah, it's about true. It's doing forklift online certifications. So yeah, it might take a month to get all of your certifications and get everything completed. That is true. Now, at the same time, though, this cannot be true. That 2,499 people simply saw your ad within one day and converted. So do we actually have a 28-day sales cycle, or is this really good at just showing an ad to 2,500 people that it knows are going to convert? Well, I can tell you that when we shut this campaign off, nothing happened. So we didn't really see any loss of anything. So it was just attribution, and that's how it can train itself wrong. All right. Cool. Question for both. Ooh, we got, I don't know if you're here, Ralph, but we have a question for both of us. What advice would you give someone, me, career-wise, in terms of where the industry is going, working at agency or freelance, basically how to become a John Moran wizard career-wise? So my opinion is whenever you make a change inside of a paid media platform, your first thing that you want to look at as a result is not in the platform. So get very, very systemic on I increased ad spend on my Google Ads campaign. Cool. Close that down and now just watch your website. Look at the backend metrics. Do you have new customers? Is it attributable to that channel? Are they buying? Do you have more revenue? If you crank up that revenue, or if you crank up that ad spend, and this is just assuming that it's just one channel. Let's just assume we're not talking about multimedia mix modeling. That's going to take a while. But if we're running one campaign, one channel, one website, keep it very simplistic. What you have to start to train yourself on is if I crank up the ad spend here, I can close that down, run over to my website, and then watch it. If it doesn't go up, go back to Google and look at Google. If Google says, hey, it's going up, now you're starting to see the discrepancies. Now you're like, aha, like now I'm seeing what happened. My new customers stayed maybe flat, maybe got increased a little bit, but an email campaign went out that week and got 37 more return customer sales. What did Google say? Google said it had 31. Is Google taking credit for my email sales? Maybe. First click copy import solves that, by the way. But that's typically what happens is other channels conversions become paid media channels attribution. And that is actually something that happens quite frequently. I'll do a half a second example too on this because this is stuff that is just super fun. I love this stuff. So when we're looking at, I'm going to go through this is a gentleman that sells lobster. And that was something that happened all the time. And that is why Meta was unfortunately just kind of really hurting his company for quite some time, is when you look at analytics and you look at the channels that are actually producing new and returning customers. If you look at the top marketing channels for the last 90 days on first click, by the way, that's a really, really, really important thing. Everything's based on first click because that's actually where users started their journey, at least from an interaction standpoint. Now, in this area here, the campaign says that they have spent $47,000 and got $66 CPA and 717 purchases since April. Now, if you look inside of here, where does most of your first time and returning customers come from is attentive. It's from first click text message. Not physically possible. We're not buying lists. Your first click cannot be a text message. Your first click has to be coming to the site from somewhere, joining the text message, returning to the site through text message, and then buying. So first click, 3,000 can't be true. But every single time that this text message went out and these returning customers purchased, that number went up. Which is why when I joined, I said, hey, by the way, when we're looking at just like in June, for example, if you look at these, let's say 248 purchases, do you know that only 25 are new? So about 10% of the purchases are new. So that is not $65 CPA. That's a $650 cost of new customer. You're still going to spend $16,000 where you triple your AOV on new customers with the cost, selling $200 products one time for $600? No. But Meta says, don't worry. You're making sales and it's coming from here. If you believe that, that's where things fail. So being able to say, like, if you crank up spend and it shows a bunch of sales, and you run over to the back end, you're like, where's all my new customers? Now you're starting to think like a business owner and not a media buyer. And that's what you need to do if you want to be a good media buyer. All right. We're right at time. I think we got through most of them. I'm not sure if Ralph, if you're here, but this was fun. Audio is deactivated. All right. No worries. I really appreciate it, everyone. Thanks so much. Oh, I think you got, there it is. Perfect. So my answer for learn everything you can, work 16 hours a day, every day for a year, and get 10,000 hours of expertise. Work for free if you can management be so good they can never fire you. That's actually kind of what I did. So yeah, that is true. I was actually working for free to use as a case study. Like, if I can make you a bunch of money, I'll do it for free. And then I said, can you tell people that this is what happened if it has a good performance for you? We did that quite often. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, then work another 10,000 hours to become the next JMO. I hope that happens. I'd like to stop working 10,000 hours. But this is fun.